Okay, so I know I haven't done a voiceover
Mr. Morgan!
for these
Keep her
clips.
happy and well fed. I think perhaps we'll be okay. Here's hoping, Pearson. And perhaps we shall make it to the sea after all. How I miss it. Its flatness.
So, for the past 6 clips, I've been playing a bit of the story, um, trying to remember where I was here and there when it comes to putting together the clips. In some parts, I did forget to press record, but a lot of it I feel like can be looked over in most parts like that. Like the little in between things. And what's interesting with a lot of these updates that's been going on, there's been other extra little, cutscenes appearing here and there. For example, if you don't clean up, I'm pretty sure you guys saw it, where Miss Grimshaw pretty much slaps Arthur and gives him a bath herself in camp. And I do know if you don't confront Thomas Doubts, right? And this part I didn't record. Again, I thought the recorder was on, but Leah Strauss, he gets onto Arthur in a cutscene and forces him to go see Thomas Downs in order to collect, which I thought was interesting with that cutscene. As you can see,
I ain't got ideas above my station. I just ain't doing that no more. We have to sing for our supper list. Sure, singing's fine, but I'm done with that. And if you want me to leave, then that's fine too. Well, I suppose I can discuss the matter with Dud. Do whatever you goddamn please.
Good morning!
Horrendous old hag! How dare she?
let's go be nosy. But, as I was saying,
Everything alright?
Who does that woman think she is?
Sometimes you just gotta humor her. Okay, I'll catch you later then.
but yeah, um, throughout the most of it was story, but also hunting.
Always good to see you.
Hi.
You're a good worker.
Thank you, Arthur.
Don't let me disturb you.
Sure thing.
Been hunting, providing for the camp, making sure there's supplies and everything that you guys have been seeing. This playthrough is going to be Go to Arthur, and if you guys like the first playthrough, whenever it's fully completed as Good Arthur, I want to do a second playthrough as Bad Arthur, if you will, as Douchebag Arthur, and do the voice overing. Now, I don't know when that will be. I do know I want to build up as much pre-recorded clips as possible without... Why ain't it popping up? Without any commentary over it. This clip that I'm doing, I'm wanting this to go up first so you guys can get a general, idea of what I have planned and what's going on. Now, for those that probably do check the channel out from time to time, as a viewer or as a subscriber, you would notice that I put out 2 videos talking about, well, the first video talking about why Man of Mandarin is a miss for me, and then putting out the last clip, how I ended up putting it out, because it had loading issues. Man of Mandarin had really bad loading issues. I'm not saying it's a bad game, because when it first came out, I seen people play it and I watched it and it looked good, and I really am wanting to give Dark Pictures Animathology Studios a real chance, because I want them to be the first horror franchise gaming company for me to get into. Like Until Dawn, I really enjoyed Until Dawn, quite a lot actually, and I really wanted to get into again Man of Mandarin, because the gaming company, they're taking a lot of actual analytics, pathology per se, of actual things that happened in this world that are based off certain things. Like the first game, Until Dawn, is based off native lore of skinwalkers, you know, of cannibalistic spirits that possess the humans, and they tend to turn them into creatures that eat human flesh. Like for example, Land of Mandarin, it's based off an actual ship called the Mandarin, and during World War II, or a little bit before World War II, there was a ship called the Mandarin that was trying to experiment with time travel and trying to experiment with electricity.
Yep.
During that process, and a lot of people on that ship, based off of what happened, got, you know, what was found off that ship. You know, there was a lot of people with the experiment that went wrong. The people fused themselves in the wall. So that's where that's from. I know they got another game out called Little Hope that takes place in the I want to say in the Pilgrim Ages. This is before the 30-year Civil War in history, and this is a little bit before the Wild West or the Old West, definitely. This is, I guess you could say, not Victorian ages, but like Pilgrim ages at that. Now, I haven't watched that game, that story, or that playthrough because I don't want to spoil it for myself, if anything at that. I want it to be fresh, and eventually, what I'm going to do for myself, after I play RDR 2 for you all here, once I fully get done, I'm going to go back to Land of Mandarin and play it for myself off screen. And hopefully they have like a save option. I'm pretty sure they do. That way I can save where I'm at in the game, because I want to play it for myself off screen so I can fully get into it and enjoy it, because I hated the fact that, yeah, it had loading issues, and that's what steered me away from not wanting to continue the game for you guys, and why I do consider that game a miss because of its loading issues. So I'm definitely going to go back and play it again, but I'm going to play it for myself off screen, and hopefully they have like a save thing. So I'm pretty sure they do. That's why I don't lose it. Again, I want to get as much recorded for you guys as possible, because I don't know when I'm going to actually want to do the RDR2 Arthur Morgan playthrough of him being a douchebag with me doing voice overs and voice interactions and my own dialect, if you will. The reason for it, my father chose hospice yesterday, and he's been battling with cancer since February until now, and the cancer spread it to his lungs, and it's getting to him so much. I do truly believe he doesn't really know what's going on as much anymore, coming or going. His body very, very rapidly broke down on him, and I'm the only one that he has to help and to count on. You know, my mother can only do so much. She's, you know, at age, and her body, for the most part, breaking down as well. And he wants hospice here at home, but we may not be able to get that hospice at home like we thought today. It may have to end up being in the hospital for him to try to receive a good enough oxygen, but he doesn't want to die in the hospital. He wants to go here, you know, at home. So because of that, and me leaving for a trip for 2 weeks, because it's his wishes for me to get out the house for a while, and I'm going to respect his wishes. I'm going to respect his wishes, and I'm going to be doing that because that's what you do, man. You respect people's wishes when their time is coming, or their wishes after they're gone. You know, me and my father for a good 29 years of my life have never had a relationship until now because he was always gone. You know, he wasn't really a part of my life in such a and throughout hardly any of it. And because of this, you know, it sucks because we ended up bonding and getting so close. And so because of that is why I'm getting as much uploaded as possible. That way, throughout the time of me trying to take care of things here and everything, and get ready for his passing and getting things prepared for, you know, his going, if you will. For me getting things prepared for his, you know, passing and everything, that way, you know, I'm not distracted trying to play so many playthroughs. I can just go ahead and upload them and give you guys something to watch and everything, for those that you know who would tune in and be like, you know, like, where's the rest, or things out of that nature. That way, you know, with this video, it gives you guys a bit of insight of what's going on, and, you know, again, and for you guys to get an understanding of, like, okay, I understand he wants to get as much to us as possible because of what's going on with what I'm about to share. You know, once everything is set and done, even if I have to push things back like that, that's what's going to take, because even if I have to push things back and continue with RDR2 next year, then that's what it's going to end up taking, because I do want to move after my father passes. You know, me and my mom do, and it's not going to just happen overnight. Like, things like that take time. You know, for those that have been through this, you know, certain things take time, and it's just not going to happen overnight. So that's why I'm saying, you know, I want to give to you guys as much that I can, because I don't know when the next time may end up being for me to come back on here after that.
There we go.
And that's why I'm doing this voiceover, you know, video for you guys while playing this. And as you can see, what I'm doing, I'm hunting. You know, I got done fishing, caught a lot of fish. Now, eventually, I feel like it is getting time for me to move on, to go ahead and get to chapter 3, move on to rogues. And I think I'm just going to do a lot of fishing there, building up so much supplies and everything. One thing I do want to do as me doing this is to do theory videos, because no one's really talking about any theory videos with Red Dead 2, doing, like, you know, like what ifs, I should say, like what if videos, not so much as theory videos, but like what if videos, you know, like what if, for example, like what if, the first thing that comes to mind, right? The first thing that comes to mind. What if John didn't get attacked by wolves? How much of his story, you know, really would change, because he didn't get attacked by wolves? Or what if Dutch never had a brain injury? What if he didn't hit his head? What if he did not get that brain injury that turned him into such a horrible person? I believe a lot right there, based off that concept, could play so much. Or what if Dutch decided to tell Arthur not to get Micah out? Or what if Arthur was an RDR1? What if John had to hunt down Mr. Pearson, Charles? What the fuck? Now I'm just wasting arrows at this point. But what if he had to hunt down the rest of the just the rest of the Dutch gang? Like how would that really would have played out in RDR1 so much with them in that regard? I think personally myself, I kind of already did a what if video talking about that in that sense. It is here on the channel for those of you that do want to check out that video, because I do go into quite a bit, but there's so many different what ifs that would only work so much, and that I think people would want to hear. I don't know how I would go about doing that. I do know I would like to see somebody do audio fan fictions for RDR2, because there were some good ones. There was one. There's two of them, maybe three, that I personally enjoyed reading, and that was the first one was called Not Broken Yet. That was a good one, and I actually read that for you guys. It is also here on the channel. Another good one, Where His Bones Lie. It's about Sadie coming to visit John, but not knowing that he died and everything. There's another one, if I remember correctly, where Sadie finds Jack after she found out about Arthur's passing, and it goes into quite a bit. If I'm correct, there was one, but I don't know why the user took it down, because it was a really good story. I mean, it was really super good. It was a video. No, not a video. It was a fan story based off Edgar Ross's daughter and her running away from home because of him. And this was just really this is before John got killed by him. This is during the time when John was still working for them. Matter of fact, this goes back a little bit before the Blackwater Massacre and the Blackwater Bank Robbery with the Vanderlyn gang. And it goes into so much. I don't know why the person removed that story. I loved reading that story. I thought it was a really good story. I think it was 50 pages long, if I remember correctly. And how it ended was really something as well. It was just really good. And I just really wish people would do story audio fan base like that. Like, it was just really excellent. I thought it was a good story. I appreciated it. And I would say if I were to pick two stories that I really did enjoy that painted a picture in my head, it was Not Yet Broken and the one I just told you guys about. You know, them were really, to me, those were just so awesome stories. Like, they were just awesome. You know, I loved those stories when I read them. I don't know how much you guys are into fan fiction, you know, fan stories, I should say. But there's some good ones out there. I feel like a lot of you all would have enjoyed. And I think you guys would enjoy those. I strongly believe. Like, it was just really super good. Then I got to thinking, and I'd done this before. I got to thinking, and I already done videos on this, or video ideas about other RDR games out there that could happen. And one of them that comes to mind, right, which I'm going to try to make everything tie in, is that I think they should go back to the beginning of the franchise with Red Dead Revolver and bring Red Harlow into the world, into the universe of the HD quote-unquote canon universe of Red Dead, and to really expand upon that, to really expand upon his story, make it open world like RDR2, and just really expand that game so much to where, yes, it would be just, I don't want to say it would be just as long as RDR2, but almost to the same length, because I think we all would like to play as him after his main story's, you know, finished, and figure out, okay, like with just a fresh start, like what did he do truly, you know what I'm saying, with his life in that aspect, in that regard, like what happened to him, you know, where did he go, and to figure out, you know, who Red Harlow really was, you know, really is. And I feel like they could actually bring the actual fan theory of Uncle being Red Harlow, but with this remake of the story, it can go so much in depth throughout the numerous years, even as he ages, so people can finally learn, you know, why he became how he became, why Uncle became this way, why he chose not to talk about his past, why he drank so much, you know, and see if he really did travel. You know, I personally feel like he did travel.
Won't take long, boy.
And that at the end of his story, with Uncle's passing, with him being Red Harlow actually canon, I feel like the person that needs to find that journal and stash to read through it should be Jack. Yes, Jack. And make this right after he killed Edgar Ross. Now, I know Rockstar says that the Red Dead universe is not connected in any way or canon to GTA universe, which is bullshit. And I'm going to say why that's bullshit, because I want you guys to hear me out with this one, as I'm really trying to go in detail as much as I can possible. But I feel like the game that should come out after that should be a remaster slash reboot slash soft, not hard, soft remake of RDR1 because of RDR2. And I feel like it should expand with the map to put to put Mexico into the map, to put other parts of the map that we now have and that we were introduced to RDR2. The reason for that is because with RDR2 being out, there's a lot that RDR1 could fully fill in that would be better for it as well. And I also think it would be interesting because we know we know the online story is 4 years before this story, and then this takes place 8 plus 4 is 9, 10, 11, 12 years earlier before the events of RDR1, because in the epilogue it's been 8 years that passed. So I think it would be definitely cool to see how the landscape changed 13 years later, plus add that extra 4 on there because of the online story, which would make it about 20 something years later, or almost 20 years later at the most, just to see how that landscape changed in RDR1, exploring as John Marston before his death, and then when we play as Jack, right, to explore it even more, because Jack's in his early 20s by the time we play as him, and it's 1914, which is the same year as World War One. As World War One, I think that would be
It's me.
be interesting, and for him to visit, as well as John, to visit certain areas. Why not certain people? Because I'm going to get to that. Which then brings me to, I think,
Hi, Arthur.
RDR3, in which RDR3 can be about in this regard. RDR3 should be about Dutch, like teenage Dutch. Now, I know a lot of people don't want that, but I want people to hear me out, and the reason why I say,
Oh, where have you been, big man? Out and about, you know. I missed you, son. You find anything interesting? It's strange country out there. That it is.
as I was saying, you know, I think the reason why I would want that, and I want people to really hear me out with this one. Dutch grew up in a wealthy family. You know, he became well educated. Back in those days, not every child was allowed to go to school and to receive an education. You had to be of a family of wealth and money in order just to go to school back then.
Good job, Arthur.
Now you got to remember, this is before. This is in the infant years. We're talking about the fetus years of the West.
Fine, but make sure you get a good price for it.
And, you know, I say that
Good job, Mr. Morgan.
because Blackwater was a dirt town. There was nothing there, but it was very rich and wealthy land, and really used for a lot of boats, and when it comes to traveling, exchanging goods in that area, as well as the town of Armadillo and Tumbleweed at that time during its heyday. And for us to figure out, you know, why Vanderland, why Dutch got interested in that outlaw life, like what inspired him to become an outlaw, and to also learn of who he came up under as an outlaw and how he gained certain skills, because you just don't just form a gang on your own, and you just don't automatically learn these things, you know. It would be interesting to see who he came under and then why he chose to leave, or what happened to the gang that he was a part of as a young age, and then go into actual details.
Pinkertons, did you? Saw, met, and got the full message. And what did you think? I think we're in real trouble, but the only way out is forward. I know. That Blackwater business seems to have finished us.
You know, and how he truly met Hosea, and then we play as those two for a little while, right? And as we move on to Dutch's young adult years in his 20s, throughout the process of this, you know, how he actually met each member of the Vanderlyn gang, and as the progress of this game continues, you know, we're building up our gang, and we're traveling through certain states and playing through certain events that they talk about during the dialogues around the campfire. And the map would be so huge, and I believe it would work because, you know, each console that passes gets a bigger engine. You can do so much more, especially with map expansions. And I think it would be so well balanced because we would be in different areas in a different part of the state, but have it labeled as one thing all around, you know? And I think it would also be great because we would also get to play as Dutch when he gets older, where he is now. I think in his, I don't want to say in his, I think he's in his mid-30s. I believe in RDR2. I think Dutch is in his mid-30s. I could be wrong, but he might be in his mid-30s, I believe.
Mr. Morgan, you saved my life, and I'm very grateful.
Don't mention it, Reverend.
I made a fool of myself.
We've all done it.
I get so confused and angry, and then I hear God laughing at me, and I get even angrier. Well, I'm a real prize dope. I know it.
Anyways, I was saying, you know, I think it would be interesting because we would get to play as Dutch where he's at now, his age. Again, I think he's in his mid-30s, but we would be able to play as Dutch and figure out what he truly done in Blackwater. We get to play to that Blackwater massacre as Dutch. Now, is that where the game would end? No, because I would want to know why. I think as we all would want to know why. As let me go into cinematic mode here. As, you know, why, you know, like first, where did Dutch, Javier, Bill, and Micah
So I've got a story for you, Hosea. You'll
go
like
to?
this one.
Can we just enjoy some peace and quiet?
You're a barrel of laughs, aren't you?
Where they went to with that money, and why did Javier and Bill break away from Dutch and Micah, and then why did Dutch leave Micah within those 8 years, or with half of those 8 years, and then why did Dutch and Micah team back up? And I believe Dutch did learn about Micah, and I feel like how he learned about him, and I have my own theories on that, which I feel that would play out good, would be that Dutch found out about Micah after the death of Arthur, and why he changed so much the way he is because he missed Arthur. He realized Arthur was telling the truth the whole time, and that Dutch done his own research in his own way and found out that one, Micah was an undercover agent being planted in different gangs to take them down before he met with the Dutch Vanderlyn gang, and that he was planted by the Pinkertons. Going into that, I also believe he was a part of the O'Driscoll gang and may have been Colm O'Driscoll's third brother that no one knew about. The reason why I say that is because the O'Driscolls worked for the Pinkertons in order to help bring down the Vanderlyn gang so they could get paid. You know, in real life scenarios, that is a thing. For example, Jam Master Jay's killer, they didn't arrest him 15 years later because they knew where he was. They've been knowing where he was. The killer was working with the feds in order to bring down higher drug dealers and higher killers in New York throughout these 15 years until they decide they no longer have use for you and they decide to stop paying you. Then they arrest you. As such, they arrest you. Just like a woman here in town who killed a senior high school student who was a pizza delivery boy. She murdered him 26 years ago. And then they decided to arrest her 26 years, 27 years later. Because throughout the whole time, she was working with them to help bring down other people until they no longer had use for her. And knowing that's why, Como Driscoll was being executed in Saint Denis because he failed to bring Arthur to the Pinkertons in order to bring down Dutch and Dutch Van der Linde gang. So you see what I'm saying here with that one, why the idea of that works so well.
Good morning, Arthur. You'll work it out.
And then to figure out,
Another day and we're still alive.
where Dutch went to,
Anyway, let's not tempt fate. Whatever you say.
where Dutch went to after he got off that mountain after the death of Micah, and playing as Dutch within those 4 years of RDR 1 to rebuild up the Van der Linde gang, how he came about doing that. Because if you guys read one of the newspapers as John in the epilogue, after you complete the epilogue story, there's a newspaper that says Dutch Van der Linde has been spotted, in tall trees. And I think throughout the process, we play as Dutch Van der Linde fighting against John at Dutch's stronghold. And then once Dutch dies, like, who can we spawn as to roam in that area? I feel like what would be best is, again, would probably be Dutch's son. Dutch does has a son. If you guys truly look into it, Dutch has a child. And Dutch's child goes on to build the Dutch Van der Linde gun company that we get in RDR 5 online about something odd years back when it came to doing that treasure hunt to get the gold revolver. Because if you guys read that text, it said, it said Van der Linde Gun Company. And us playing as Dutch's son, we get to travel throughout just the biggest map ever, learning about Dutch, getting Dutch's old guns as his son, reading his journal, learning so much in that regard. And I feel like it's something that could work. I feel like something that could be best, which then leads me into this one, which would be RDR 4. RDR 4 should be about John in those 4 years working with the Pinkertons and having him take down the rest of the outlaw gangs before the events of part 1. Because as you can see, he was building up a reputation as a lawman per se, working with the Pinkertons, them putting his name out there, and that's how I believe Dutch, Javier, and Bill, found out. And I think throughout the process of this, which I feel that would work psychologically for the character John, is when they decide to have John hunt down the actual maiden survivors who the Pinkertons could consider dangerous. For example, Mr. Pearson first, I know, followed up by Trelawney, Tilly, which is one of my favorite female characters in the game, and I love Tilly. I have such a crush on her. That's why, as Arthur, every time I play this game, I always like to flirt with Tilly as Arthur. I feel like they would have made a good couple, but I feel like he would had to hunt her down And then I feel like the last two, which will be missions to where you would have to fight so much, would be based off Arthur having to hunt down Charles to take him down, followed up by, you know, Sadie. And once those are done, then we get him going on the train to Armadillo to go confront Bill. And then have it to where we just free roam as Arthur. Like, no, not Arthur, but just free roam. Free roam as John. It's okay.
Hey,
Wallace, this here's the kind soul I was telling you about. The one that, got the venom out of your leg?
guess so.
Listen, friend, I know I can never repay you, but how about you head over to the gunsmith and pick out your choice of item on my tab?
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah, seemed like the least I could do. With him being sent straight to the Almighty to save my life.
Hey, what can I do for you?
Better outside told me I could grab something on his tab. One with the bite in his leg.
Ah, Norbert, huh? Well, he's good for it. About all he's good for between the two of us. Well, take a look around. Find something you like, I'll put it on his tab.
You know, to free roam as John, I mean, that would really be about it. You know, it really would. I don't see there being
Fine choice. I'll let him know.
anything else that we could do in that regard as John. But at least he would be alive, and we would get the free roam as him. And a lot of people like, oh, well, that's just like RDR2 free roam. Yeah, but guess what? He's alive, you know what I'm saying? We would get to free roam as him. I think it would only make sense unless we get the free roam as Jack. In that regard, as an older
Have a look.
Jack or a teenage Jack. Which then brings me to this RDR5. RDR5
Guaranteed.
in this regard should be about Jack
Thanks.
trying to redeem himself
Now that's
for
a deal.
killing out of revenge. I don't think Jack in this regard even got busted for that, even got questioned, because back then the word throughout that can only spread so much, and so much detail can be lost, so many things can change. It took place in another country, and back then their laws for that weren't, you know, they weren't as tight as they are now. Like, they were loose. So he got away with murder, but because he got away with murder and because he feels guilty for killing out of revenge, and for him to feel like he needs to redeem himself, is having him happen to serve in the U.S. military and fighting in
Have a look around.
World War I.
It's all yours.
A lot of people think that Jack fought in World War I and that he died. I believe that he lived, got an injury, and lived to have a family, lived to pass down the ranch to his kids, and he was able to work on his book, because we can end the game as Jack writing his book, right? And then have it, the, you know, epilogue present day be in 1992, because a lot of people think Jack would have died in 1992 at the age of, I think, 93, which would make sense. And we would be able to play as one of Jack's kids,
Enjoy.
maybe as a son or as a daughter of that, because, and be able to free roam throughout present day, be able to really, free roam as that, which would make so much sense, at least to me, in that regard. Because how this can tie in to Grand Theft Auto 5 is that if you go inside Franklin's house in the mansion to the bookshelf, and if you go into first person mode, you're going to see a book that says Red Dead in big bold letters in the color red, of course, and the initials JM for Jack Marston, because it's a big thick book that tells the events of RDR1, RDR2, and even the things in between that I talk about. Now, yeah, granted, there won't be free roam in that game until after you beat everything and get to play as one of Jack's children and explore all of RDR2 map, but in quote-unquote present day. And
Appreciate it.
in 1992, and I think so much detail can go in because they can add like museums, have people telling stories about the Old West, the Wild West, having people cosplay, of course, as some of the Vandalin, gang members. Even put like a movie,
Okay then.
not an actual movie, but a movie in the game, go to the theater where people are watching, one or two of the events from the actual games. I think that would be something
Enjoy.
I feel like a lot of people would want to see. I know I would mind seeing that happen. I think it would make a really great touch and just bring a good balance to things back then, because I would love to see where how everything would look in the 90s, just based in the world of, the map of RDR2 and things like that. Now, granted, Jack's children, yeah, like, they would be older, or we could play as one of his grandkids. Think about it, one of his grandkids. Like, that could be crazy as well. And because of that, there'd be a legacy of just everything truly coming together. Truly coming together in that scenario, which would definitely work in my own personal opinion. Now, some people, after that don't really know this, but I know it's supposed to be a Western type of game, but sometimes, and I feel like they would have to go outside of the element of that with Jack in 1914 with his own Red Dead game, like I talk about, because believe it or not, the West era and retrospect of the Wild West and the Old West was only for about 20-25 years. Like, that's it. And a lot happened during then, but that's how long it really was. Now, let's say if they do decide to want to do a little bit more with the Red Dead franchise after that, right? So what can they do? What else can they do to really bring that old world scenario to us in this era, in an old era, if you will? Yes, the Western era would be wrapped up, which would only leave us with other opportunities. One, which I think would be really awesome to see, is the medieval ages in an open world like RDR 2 or like a GTA 5, right, by Rockstar, and really seeing how those people lived, how they had to survive, because they didn't have very many weapons. They didn't really have cannons back then. They had swords, shields, knives, and hands, and bows, and horses to travel on, and money was so tight back then because you practically worked for nothing back then. I think just that aspect alone into a medieval age game can go into so much detail because there is so much story, so much mythological stuff back then that I believe to some concepts are true in some way. It may not be as it's described because we know stories, they change over time, but there's so much that they can do in detail that I think people would enjoy it. Or the next era, which I think I would be fond of, is pirates. An open world pirate game. Fighting on the seas, living on the seas.
We was beginning to worry a little, Mr. Morgan.
Oh, you know me, Miss Grimshaw? I'm Wander.
Oh, I know, son. I'm just glad to have you back with us. For now.
Living on a ship, surviving on a ship, being able to also go on land and stumble onto some of the weird stories, some of the weirdest things that we hear about
This'll help the stew.
on the seas as
Well done, Mr. Morgan.
as a pirate, stumbling onto other pirates, going against them in the age of that piracy, and how so much of that can just go into a game and be so well crafted to where if those two game ideas were to work, I think people would want, more sequels to those games, not prequels, because we're already in a prequel era, but just sequels to them in that scenario. Or maybe a character so well loved that somebody would want to see a prequel era of them in their younger years, and who they came up under or the things that they got into as that. And I think the next era, which would be the Mafia era, yeah, we do got Mafia games from Hangar 13, Mafia 1, 2, and 3, but have a open world Mafia game at, with Rockstar. And the Mafia era went on longer than the Old West era, or the West era, went on longer than the Pirate era, and it went on longer than the Medieval era, because the age of the Mafia goes back to the late 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, and the downfall of the Mafia was in the 1990s. Yes, was in the 1990s. So there's a lot right there that they can just go from based off that, and I believe the Mafia. Right.
It's cologne. It's liquor. It's cologne from Cologne, Germany. Oh, I just had a few nips, Arthur. I'm not drunk. I'm just happy. You ought to try sometime. Drinking? Happiness. Try happiness. Just a little.
But yeah, there's a lot right there that they can go from,
Shut up.
having.
Charming.
This is why the ladies love you, Bill.
Oh, give it a rest, Morgan.
It's all good. Calm down.
You're a strange feller.
But I think it would be. It would be great, I think, to see or to have a Rockstar Mafia game, because again, there's so much that they can do
There he is.
with that.
My favorite son. The best man amongst us. You okay, Arthur?
Never better.
Me neither. Me neither.
Yeah, there's a
Mr.
lot.
Miller is a hell of a writer. Like a modern day Elijah.
Okay, I'll catch you later then.
Okay, Arthur.
But yeah, there's a lot right there that they can just do, and some ideas to throw around. Because you can only do so much with the Western era. Like I said, it was only, you know, Wild West and Old was only for 25 years. Even though the years, like I said, the fetus, child, baby, toddler era of the West
Actually appear to be working.
was a lot more than what people, a lot more dangerous. And I think the next thing, what would be interesting to see, is an open world native game by Rockstar. I would love to see that. And I think if they were to do one more cowboy game, if they were to really go back after all these ideas, is us to see this man right here in his own game, Arthur's father, 12/7/1874. To play as this man right here would be something. I think it would be one hell of a story that I think a lot of us would enjoy, a lot of us would like. I know I would. With that being said, I'm out. Peace.